Welcome to Trinity Community Church. We are so happy that you've chosen to worship with us today. Here are a few announcements to keep you up to date with all of the things that are happening at Trinity. Most of you've heard Trinity's worship services will be virtual for the time being. We'll be broadcasting our services on Saturday nights at 5 p.m., Sundays at 8:30 and 10 a.m., and then Sunday nights at 6 p.m. This is a great opportunity to invite others to try out Trinity online. Don't forget that all ministry and group activities outside of our weekend virtual experience have been put on hold until further notice. The church offices will be operating remotely. If you have an emergency, you can contact us by calling or emailing the church offices. The well will continue to be open to serve you and the community during this time. The well will also have its normal menu as well as a bunch of ready-to-eat meals for delivery for those who may be sick or unable to be outside. The well will also be providing free bag lunches for kids. The well is a great resource to help those around you that may be in need. There's also a giving station located at the well if you would like to support our efforts to help people in this critical season. There'll be more information about our Easter activities coming soon, so stay posted for more details. And thank you for worshiping with us today.
Okay, maybe we need to go over this one more time.
Do we have to?
Well, sweetie, I don't know if you're getting a good grasp of the ratios here.
Fine.
Okay, all right, step by step. Before we spend any money, what's the first thing that we do?
Give to God.
Good. And why do we do that?
Because He first loved and gave to us.
Good. Okay, great. Now the second jar here is for so many different things.
Hold on.
What?
God lives in heaven, right?
Yeah, He lives in heaven.
And heaven has streets paved with gold, right?
Streets paved with gold, sure, yes.
So why does He need my money if I don't even have a job?
Okay, all right, so good question. So basically when we give to God, we're giving to the church.
So the church gives the money to God?
No, the church keeps the money.
Oh, does God know about this?
Yes, He basically built the system, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay. See, sweetie, as you grow up, there is nothing better than giving back to God. In the Bible, it's the only place God says, test me on this. When it comes to your money, He says, test me. It's almost like He's saying, I dare you. And your mom and I, we do just that. Even when things are tough, we always give the first part of our money back to God. And then the church takes that money and does all kinds of things to make God famous. like camps and mission trips and even VBS that you love so much, and even helps out people that are in need. You can't outgive God. And when God says test him and you do it, he will come through every single time.
Okay, Dad, I get it. I do have one question, though.
Oh, okay.
Why do we need to test God if he already knows all the answers?
That's good. Let me just retrace my steps here just for a minute.
Life can bring us storms. Those moments where we wander, doubt. The journey doesn't stop, but the progress does. It can be lonely, painful. Sometimes we try to stare it down, as if we could somehow will it to go away. Or we think we can go toe-to-toe and come out the other side, unscathed. We often forget just how small we are. The truth is, storms are inevitable. But when they appear, we have a protector, a savior who knows a thing or two about calming storms. A God who is a stronghold in times of trouble. In our weakness, he is strong. In our fear, he is courage. In our desperation, he is peace. Yes, storms are inevitable. But our God is invincible.
The God we serve is invincible. Now, most of you know that God is invincible, but you've come up to this understanding: we are not invincible. In fact, we are so uninvincible that some of you, or most of you, know that we're in the middle of a crisis right now. That is something that's been very unique for us as a people. This is why you're watching me today, while you're sitting on your couch eating your Eggo waffles smeared with Nutella. We are having virtual church again here at Trinity Community Church, and we'll be meeting this way until this crisis is over. This does remind me of this, though. The church, again, guys, we are not a place. We're a people. Everybody take your right hand, put it on your heart, and repeat after me. Say, I am the church. Don't forget, you're the church. You're more than just a building. So while you're home enjoying your service today, we want to do something a little bit different. We want you to take a picture of your family, a video of your family, watching the service in the comfort of your own home, taking part in our services. This is going to be your virtual church spot. Take that picture, take that video, and send it to media@trinitychurchde.com. It's going to be exciting. So again, we all want to see your spot where you're worshiping at today. Now, over the last month, we've been taking a deeper look at how God designed the church to function. We've been looking basically as a model at Ephesians 4:11 and 12. We've looked at the apostolic gift, The gift that builds the church. It builds things. This gift causes the church to grow. Then we looked at the prophetic gift. We looked at how the prophetic gift helps to guide the church. It gives us God's heart and His wisdom to be able to move in these times. Then we looked at the evangelistic gift, how that gift gathers people outside the walls of the church. It helps us, again, to reach out beyond our walls and to help people in our community there that are in need. Now, over the last few weeks, we started to look at the pastoral gift. We've taken most of our inspiration for that from Psalm 23. If you got your Bibles, flip them open to Psalm 23 today. We're going to study Psalm 23, verses 1 through 3. I'm reading from the ESV version of the Bible today, and it says this: "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake." Now, over the last few weeks, we've looked at what it means for Jesus Christ to be our good shepherd. So let me just kind of go into review real quick. First, we looked at this, seeing that God is our resource. What does that mean? That means that God provides for all of your needs. He provides for us physically. He provides for us emotionally. He provides for us, again, mentally. Anything you need. Spiritually, God is your provision. He is Jehovah Jireh, our provider. Secondly, we looked at how God replenishes us. He strengthens us by giving us good things. He takes us to the green grass. He gives you everything you need to grow in your faith. Third, God is our rest. That means this: He leads us beside still waters. He helps us, again, to regain our strength so that we can function maximally with Him. Fourth, God restores us. He helps, again, to put our hearts back together, especially in this age that likes to rip at us and rip our hearts apart. It's God's heart that He restores the broken. Now, that restoration starts with us. It starts with you and me. Then that restoration was never meant for you just to keep it all to yourself, but it was meant to be shared with others. We get that understanding from Galatians 6, 1 through 3. Now, I want to encourage you today to check out last week's talk. It'll help you to understand what it means to restore people around you that have experienced brokenness, and it'll also help you to understand what that restoration looks like for you. So let's pick up today where we left off last week. Let's look at Psalm 23, verses 3. "He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake." Now, this is interesting. That Greek word for righteousness is called tzedek, and it actually means this: righteousness, rightness, or to be straight. This means that the Good Shepherd leads us along the right path, the straight path, the best path. That takes us to this, number 5, God determines our road. God just doesn't take you from point A to point B, but He leads you along the perfect road to get you to exactly where you need to be, fully equipped and able to walk out your destiny. With God, it's not just about the destination, but it's also about the journey. It's in the journey that we find all that we need to be able to accomplish the things that He has for us to do. Now, some of you have wondered, man, why you've had so many challenges along your journey. Is it possible that God's allowed you certain things, He's allowed you to encounter certain things in your life so that you would be better equipped to serve Him and to serve the body at large? In the kingdom, sometimes, beloved, it's not just about you. In the kingdom, sometimes the straight line is not the perfect way that God wants to get you to where He wants you to go. I remember when I was pastoring in Denver, I remember my office every day. I'd look out of my office and I'd see a beautiful picture of the snow-capped Rocky Mountains. And one day I was there, Robin was still back in Chicago, and I had some extra time to kill. So I thought after my time in the office, I was going to go and I was going to go visit the Rockies. So I got in my car, and the road right in front of the church led right, it seemed, straight to the Rockies. So I thought, what better way to get into the Rocky Mountains than to just get on this road, take her right up into the mountains. So I got in the car, and I started the drive toward the Rockies. And I kept driving and driving and driving until all of a sudden the road that I was on stopped. I hit a T, and I had to go to the right, had to go to the left, didn't know where to go. And then I realized at that moment, the road I was on, even though the Rockies were right in front of me, never led up into the mountains. So I didn't know what to do, so I pulled into a gas station. I asked the guy there, I said, listen, man, I'm just trying to get to the mountains. I want to look at the beautiful mountains. I'm on the road that leads to the mountains. He goes, well, this road right here that you're on? He goes, yeah. He goes, that doesn't lead to the Rockies. I said, well, apparently you're right, because I can't get up there. He said, you see that road way over there to the right? I go, yeah. I said, you mean the one that leads away from the mountain? He goes, yeah. He goes, you get on that road. He goes, you follow that around. He goes, it'll take you right up to where you want to go into the mountains. So reluctantly, I got on the road. I followed his instructions, and it was the weirdest thing ever. Even though it didn't seem like I was going the right way, I trusted what the guy said, and before long, the road started to whip back around to the left, And then it started to climb up into the mountains. And before the day was over, I found myself sitting in the Rocky Mountains on the top of a mountain, sitting in the car, eating an ice cream cone in this little town called Evergreen, and it was great. You know, humming to myself John Denver songs. It was just the most magical time ever. It was great. Now, here's the thing. Guys, I didn't expect that road to take me to where I needed to be, because at times it even looked like it was going in the opposite direction. Doesn't that sound sometimes the way that God takes us along the path of our life? It does. Beloved, remember this. God can only lead you if you let Him. And sometimes the road that you're on isn't what you think it should look like. That doesn't mean that it's not the right road. We have to trust and we have to follow. Now, sometimes we give God the wheel in the situations of our life. When it's bad, we say, God, Jesus, take the wheel. I can't do this by myself. I don't know where I'm going. And then when things get stable again, what do? We try to take the wheel back, right? Or sometimes, we're cool with God being at the wheel until He decides to take you down a road that you don't want to be on, or a road that looks a little wumpy. So what do? We try to take the wheel back again. So here's the million-dollar question. Are you following the path that God is laying before you? Or do you keep taking the wheel? Guys, understand this. As a body, we experience this individually, that God prepares our road for us. But also as a body, one of our main jobs is to help people to stay on their roads, on their paths that lead to Christ. We're always lifting people up. We're always helping people to discover their gifts. Because here's the bottom line. If people find their gifts, if you find your spiritual gift, if your neighbor finds your spiritual gift, everybody wins. They win, the church wins, the kingdom wins, everybody wins. So our heart is to equip people to be able to find out what their path is. As we help people, remember this, their road may not be the same road as your road. So that means this, we don't teach people necessarily just to follow the road. We teach people to hear God's voice and to be open to what He says. This is why as a church, we're not independent, we're interdependent. We help people to hear God's voice. Beloved, it's not all about you. It's about sharing your life and your faith with others as well. It's about helping others to grow. Let's keep going on to the passage. And this is kind of exciting, and this is where I kind of want to camp out today. It says this, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Now this is interesting. The Hebrew word for shadow is samatha, which actually means this, death-like shadow or shadowland. Now the Hebrews viewed this as a place, again the shadowland, where the shadows would distort the truth of what was there. You couldn't see clearly what was around you or what was purposed around you at all. Now, how many of you know that we live in a world that tries to distort what's real? We live in a world that tries to distort what's good. It kind of changes good for evil. It messes everything up. That takes us to the next thing that God does for us. The Good Shepherd brings us revelation. Now, what is revelation? The definition of revelation is this, something revealed or something disclosed. The enemy is always trying to distort the picture. God is always bringing clarity. That's what He does. The God we serve, He burns away the fog. He helps you to see things clearly. Now, can you think of any bigger distortion from the enemy than death? Think of all the ways the enemy tries to use death to get people to run into fear, to get people to react in ways that they normally wouldn't. Even now, this pandemic thing that's going around the world, think of how people are reacting right now because they're afraid of what? Death. And death is distorting how people are living today. Just the thought of death throws people into chaos. For example, the other day my wife had asked me to stop at the local food store to pick up some toilet paper. I don't know, where you're at now, and I don't know where you're living, but toilet paper in our area right now is probably worth more than gold per ounce. So I stopped at our local Acme, and I went to the store, and I picked up some fruit and some vegetables and some things, and I did not think in a billion years I would find any rolls of toilet paper at all. So I go and I just poke my head down the toilet paper aisle, and lo and behold, there on the shelf sat, almost saturated in light, a 12-pack of Charmin toilet paper. I mean, we're not talking about the cheap stuff. We're talking about the good stuff. We're talking about, the Rolls Royce of toilet paper is just sitting there. It was on the shelf all by itself. I looked around, I grabbed it, I put it in my cart, and I thought, okay, mission accomplished. And I was feeling pretty good about myself because I know that this is a hot commodity. So as I'm walking through the store, people start looking at me, and I'm just starting to strut a little bit more, saying, yeah, I found the toilet paper. I got what I needed. Then people started asking me, man, where did you find this stuff? Where did you get this toilet paper? And I told them it was an aisle over here, but it was the last one, and I found the last one. Well, after like the sixth person asked me where I found the toilet paper, I started to notice that people were looking at me kind of funny. They'd kind of look and see what I was doing with my cart, and I realized something. I think some of these people are kind of scoping me out, so when my head is turned, they're going to come and swipe my toilet paper. So I went from being loud and large and in charge and proud to being paranoid. Everywhere I went, when I would look at something, I'd have one hand on the toilet paper, I'd have one hand in the shelf. And then I took my toilet paper and I started to put stuff on top of it to kind of bury it so that people wouldn't feel weird. And I still remember getting to the checkout line and I'm going in and they're beeping all my stuff and they put the toilet paper out there. And even the checkout lady goes, where did you find that? We haven't had toilet paper forever. And then the thought occurred to me, I wonder if I'm even going to be able to make it to the car. So I got all my stuff, I put it in the cart, I ran out to the car as quick as I could, I threw it in there, I started up the car, and I just took off as fast as I could. Why? I was paranoid. I thought somebody jumped me in the parking lot just because I found toilet paper, just because it's in short supply, even though we don't really fully need it right now, right? Having a distorted view of what's going on in a situation makes you act a little different than you normally would. We're all experiencing that now, right? And know this, the distortion of the shadow of death, when it's shadowed over a world, when it's cast over a world, can distort every part of our reality. It's hard to see things clearly when you and I are under that type of shadow. 1 Corinthians 13:12 says this about how we even see the world now, even beyond the shadows. It says, for now we can see a dim and blurry picture of things. As when we stare into a polished metal, I realized everything that I know now is only part of the big picture. But one day when Jesus arrives, we'll see clearly face to face. In that day, we'll fully know just as we've been fully and wholly known by God. So in this time, we just don't see the whole picture yet. We don't see everything clearly because we kind of live in the shadowlands. But know this, the Good Shepherd is always helping us to see things with clarity so that we can approach our world without fear. Why? Because God is with us. He's with you. And know this, you can rely on God in every situation. Even when things look foggy and dark, we can still navigate through it. How? Again, because God is with us. This is the promise that He gave us in John 16:33. He said this, here on the earth you'll have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. We can face anything if God is with us. Remember this, beloved, you are never alone. Romans 8:31 says this, so what should we say about all of this? If God is on our side, then tell me, whom should we fear? So individually, we experience that. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid even in the shadowlands because God gives us clarity to navigate. This is also true for us as a body. God designed us as a body to face things together. He designed us to pull together when things are tough, not to melt. In fact, here's the reality. We're better together than we ever would be apart. We get into trouble when we try to do things on our own. I remember as a kid growing up back in the 70s, I couldn't wait for Sunday nights because Sunday nights you had two great shows on. You had The Wonderful World of Disney, and they had a great show that you'd watch. And then you also had my very favorite show, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And you'd watch it, you had Carl Perkins, I think was the guy, and I don't know what Jim's last name was, but Perkins would sit up there and he'd talk about, these safaris and the Serengeti and all these things, and then he'd refer to his buddy Jim, who would actually be out in the field like wrestling pumas and tigers and elephants, and it was amazing. And you'd be watching the show, and as a little kid, man, we were riveted because you get to see animals and things that you don't ever see before, and it never failed. You'd be watching the show, and it usually show, all these predators and a herd of something, and all of a sudden, you see this one little thing, this little animal kind of drift off all by itself, and then you'd hear the music, dun, 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 and you knew what was coming. You knew what was coming. You heard the music, and you knew, Bambi was going to get it at that moment. You didn't know from where, and then you'd see, hiding in the tall grass was a cat or something like that, and he was getting ready to pounce on Bambi. And what always amazed me was you had these lions and these tigers, and they were big, but they weren't nearly the size of half the things in this herd. And I always wondered to myself, what would it be like? What would it be like if just once the herd said, enough is enough? Take a look at this.
Oh my God.
Gonna get the baby.
Oh my God.
I'll get the baby.
She's going for him. She's going for him. She caught him. Oh, she did. She got him.
Hey, these gonnies just clocked a buffalo here. Oh my God. God, did you see that? Yeah. Oh my God, yes. Unbelievable.
The lions have won.
Oh, the lions have won.
Yeah, but look at all those buffalo coming.
I'm running out of film.
Oh, they're going to come and try and chase the lion, but I think they're too late.
I think you're right. They're way too late now.
No, they're going to chase him. Come on.
No, they're too late.
You realize it?
Oh, look at the teeth.
Look at them. They're going to chase
Look at the teeth, Jay.
Look at them.
You're too late.
Lucas,
You're too late.
you guys, you cannot believe what's going on here. There's a big pair here between lions, crocodiles, and buffaloes.
Look at them all.
Whoa!
Links naar rechts.
Ooh, they got him surrounded.
Ja, jy kan maar kom, jong. Hier's
And that one's
Ooh!
chasing
Big boy.
chasing him. Will he go in the water?
You got the lion on him, run.
That little buffalo's still alive.
Brave king of the beast. The others are doing those. They're going at the other end. Go on, Buffalo.
Yes. Can you believe this?
Never seen that before.
I've never seen anything like
The
that.
calf's still alive. Yeah, it's trying to get away. It's standing up.
It is. It's still alive. Oh, is it? Oh, and they're putting them into the water. It's standing up. It's standing up. It's run away.
No, they've got it back.
They've got it back.
They've got him back. They do have him back.
Oh, hierdie.
All right. That is the power of the herd. Beloved, that is us. Welcome to the herd. Again, we're better together than we are alone. We need to be there for each other, not just in the good times, but also in the rough times. Now, this is also true when it comes to our community. God has called us to help those around us, especially in times of great need. Jesus explained it to us this way in Matthew 25. He said this, "Then the king will turn to those on his right and say, 'You have a special place in my Father's heart. Come and experience the full inheritance of the kingdom realm that has been destined for you from before the foundations of the world. For when you saw me hungry, you fed me. When you found me thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I had no place to stay, you invited me in. And when I was poorly clothed, you covered me. When I was sick, you tenderly cared for me. And when I was in prison, you visited me.' Then the godly will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or give you food or something to drink? When did we see you with no place to stay and invite you in? When did we see you poorly clothed and covered you? When did we see you sick and tenderly care for you or in prison and visit you?' In verse 40 it says this, "And the king will answer them, 'Don't you know, when you've cared for one of the least important of my little ones, my true brothers and sisters, you've demonstrated love for me.'" That, again, is the power of the church. Everybody grab the hand. Well, don't grab the hand. Do a virtual high five with the person in the room right next to you and say, "I am the church." Now say together, "We are the church." We are the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. In this season, don't allow fear to cripple you. Ask God how He can use you to help those that are stuck in the shadowlands. There are people today, your neighbors, your family, your friends, your co-workers, your school friends that are stuck in the shadowlands. Their view is distorted. God may want to use you to help them to see clarity, to achieve clarity. So what do? Check in on your family. Check in on your church family. Check in with your neighbors. Again, check in with your co-workers. See if they have any practical or spiritual needs. Now, as a church, Trinity is ramping up her efforts to impact our community for Christ. We shifted our daily devotional to combat fear by walking through Psalm 91. If you don't get our daily devotionals, but you want to, email us, download our app, check out our website, or check out Facebook. If you know somebody that can use these, but they don't know how to get to them, either, pass along the tags or print them out or send it to them. Do something to get God's word in their heart. The Bible says this, the word of the Lord won't return void. That means that it becomes alive inside of us. We're also adding a weekly devotional blog called Streams. It's a 2 to 3 minute inspirational thought that's meant to help you to grow in your faith, and it's also meant to be passed along to others that are part of your sphere of community. You can check out Streams on our website, on our app, on Facebook, and it'll start this week. We've also revamped the well for this season. The well will remain open. It'll be takeout only, so we can still meet people's practical needs. So if you need food, come check out the well. The food's still fantastic. But in addition to what we normally do at the well, we're going to be using the well as a staging area to help feed people that can't get out due to sickness. If you know somebody that's in need, please contact us, pick up a meal, and deliver it to them. You can email us at care@trinitychurchde.com or call the church offices. Just this weekend, Trinity Church, through the well, fed 20 families from Cook County Elementary School, feeding close to 100 people. That happened Friday night. That's going to happen Friday night. It was amazing. We'll also be providing free bag lunches for kids. The well is also open again if you'd like to purchase things for your family. I want to encourage you, please swing by and continue to support the well. If you'd like to donate to Trinity's efforts through the well, there's a giving station now located at the well. You can also give electronically through your push pay. Just tag your gift Compassion or for the well. If you'd like to help practically, again, to deliver meals and do stuff like that, you can email us, the church office, at care@trinitychurchde.com, and we'll get you connected with our efforts. Beloved, this is a season to allow God to use you in a mighty way. Now, I also want to remind you of one other thing. In this time, please continue to be faithful with your tithes and your offerings so that we can continue to flood our community with God's love, His power, and His presence. I'd like to leave you with one last thought tonight. If you're here today and you're battling with fear, invite Christ to come and to walk beside you. When Jesus comes close, fear has to leave. 1 John 4:18 says this, there is no fear in love. Perfect love drives out fear. Perfect love drives out fear. That means this, if you're afraid, get as close to Jesus as possible. Read His Word. Pray. Get into worship. Call a brother or sister. Get as close to Jesus as possible. The closer you are to Jesus, the more fear has to leave. Remember, beloved, you are the church, and you're deeply loved by God. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Open up. more time. Lift your voice. I will build.